On October 20th, 2024, at the SLP's Conference of Delegates in Vieux-Fort, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre made a desperate attempt to rewrite history.
You will remember that the United Workers' Party only gave COVID support to NIC contributors.
This claim is absolutely false. The truth? In July 2020, under the UWP administration, 5,000 St. Lucians who were non-contributors of NIC received $500 per month for 3 months to help them survive the pandemic. Prime Minister Pierre knows the facts, yet he chose to lie to the nation. Why? To mislead and divide. St. Lucia deserves a leader who values integrity, one who speaks the truth, not one who tries to twist it. Pierre, pardon. We need real leadership, not deception. Youth and Sports Minister Kenson Casimir has been caught blatantly lying about the delays with several disciplines related to national school sports. On October 23, 2024, an article published by Terry Finisterre, a well-known sports journalist and a close political ally of Minister Casimir, penned an article titled "School Sports Suspended." The story went on to explain that secondary student athletes in St. Lucia would be denied an opportunity to showcase their talents and abilities this term, as school sports has been suspended. It went further to say that this term faced the unusual interruption due to the Julian Alfred homecoming in September. According to Finisterre, one official who wished to remain anonymous told him that the disruption in instruction occasioned by the week of activities, including school rallies and a holiday, in addition to the resources that went into planning the festivities, were all a factor in deciding to cull sports. It is therefore disingenuous and a blatant lie on the part of Minister Casimir to accuse the UWP of fabricating this issue when it was first brought to light by his close friend and colleague. Attempts to salvage the issue were only made due to significant public pressure over the last 2 weeks. Our young athletes deserve leaders who will prioritize their development, not make excuses. It's time for transparency, accountability, and truth. St. Lucia deserves a government that values youth empowerment, not one that sidelines it. Kenson Pabo.
Are you ready to make a difference? Join.
Good morning to everyone, and welcome to another United Workers' Party press briefing for this week. And today I have two of the United Workers' Party candidates in the Deputy Political Leader, Senator Dominic Fede, and the endorsed candidate for Labrie Auger, Mrs. Laura Jean-Pierre Noel, who will be speaking each on subjects related to security and law and order in this country. As we know, in recent times, we have seen the continuation of the murders that have become commonplace in this country. We have of late heard of cases going a-begging, as given the fact that what we heard from the press conference from the Commissioner of Police last week, a summary of what he said in effect about the cases that were dealt with was, and I summarize, cases closed without justice. To speak on these issues this morning, I will first call on Mrs. Laura Jean-Pierre Noel, who will be speaking on the subject of justice in St. Lucia. Mrs. Noel, please.
Good morning to members of the press, fellow St. Lucians at home and in the diaspora, and all who still believe that this country can be just, accountable, and free. The substantive part of my presentation will be based on when evidence disappears, democracy bleeds. This is a national call for justice, transparency, and reform. Today we stand at a crossroads, a moment that demands clarity, courage, and accountability. Recent revelations about the disappearance of critical evidence in two of our nation's most distressing death cases expose not just isolated incidents, but systemic failures that threaten the very foundations of our justice system and democracy. So today, when I speak to you, I speak not just as a candidate, but as a daughter, as a citizen of a nation in moral and institutional crisis. I speak to you as a mentor to young people. Two names out of too many that must never be forgotten in our conscience, in our national conscience, are Shakadan Daniel and Kimberly DeLeon. Two lives taken under suspicious and violent circumstances, and two investigations that have collapsed under the weight of key evidence, collapsed under the vanished evidence and institutional silence. The disappearance of key evidence in these two high-profile cases, the noose in Shakadan Daniel's case and the firearm in Kimberly DeLeon's case, raises serious and far-reaching implications for justice, accountability, and the health of democracy in our country. In Shakadan Daniel's case, the noose, the very object that could confirm or challenge the narrative of suicide, is missing. In Kimberly DeLeon's case, the firearm, the suspected murder weapon, has vanished. These are not clerical errors. They are not coincidences. They are symptoms of rot in a system that is supposed to protect the innocent, punish the guilty, and stand for truth. You see, when evidence disappears, particularly in cases involving or implicating law enforcement, the result is not just a failure of justice. It is a direct attack on democracy itself. So what is at play here really? One, the breakdown in the rule of law. The most fundamental implication is the erosion of public confidence in the justice system. When critical evidence goes missing, the ability to investigate and prosecute is compromised, and victims and their families are denied justice. In these cases, as in others, the public is forced to watch justice be delayed, diluted, or worse, disappeared. We are asked to believe that the same institutions under scrutiny are also the ones holding the truth. But St. Lucians are not foolish. The disappearance of critical evidence in these two disturbing and high-profile death cases underscores a troubling pattern of systemic failure, obstruction, or possible cover-up within the justice system. Let me furnish you with some background for those of you who have forgotten or those of you who were too young to remember. In October 2013, Shakadan Daniel was found hanging in a police holding cell under suspicious circumstances. For those of you who are 18 today, you would have been 6 years old then. His death, widely believed to be the public widely believed by the public to be staged, sparked national outrage. The noose, an essential piece of evidence to confirm or refute this claim, has reportedly vanished from police custody. Similarly, in October 2018, Kimberly DeLeon, a mother of two and wife of a police officer, was shot and killed in her own bedroom while her children were in the house. And for those of you who are 18 today, you would have been 11 years old. The gun, suspected to be central to the case, has also gone missing, leaving a cloud of suspicion, trauma, and unanswered questions in the wake. When evidence disappears, the result is a direct assault on justice and a devastating blow to the integrity of our democracy. The implications of these disappearances are grave. There is the erosion of public trust. These failures damage confidence in the rule of law and send a chilling message to victims, families, and the wider public. Democratic decline. A democracy where justice is inaccessible or selectively applied ceases to function for the people it serves, it claims to serve. Institutional crisis. The credibility of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and justice system stands in serious question. Without trust in these institutions, public safety and national cohesion are compromised. Not to mention the ability of police officers to go out there every day and do their jobs to the best of their abilities. International scrutiny. St. Lucia has already faced global attention under the Leahy Law. These unresolved cases reinforce concerns about impunity, corruption, and lack of oversight. What needs to happen now? We need to see an independent commission of inquiry into both the Shakadan Daniel and Kimberly DeLeon cases, led by regional or international investigators. We need to see or to have a comprehensive evidence management reform, including digitization, chain of custody safeguards, and external audits. There needs to be a creation of a civilian oversight body with the power to investigate and prosecute misconduct within the police force. And finally, we need to have parliamentary hearings and mandatory public reporting on all cases where state agencies are implicated. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. Until we confront the rot within our institutions, we cannot claim to be a functioning democracy. These lives mattered. Their families deserve closure. And the people of St. Lucia deserve a justice system that works for everyone, not just the powerful. And so now that takes me to the case of Ronald Phillip. Justice, power, and perception. It would seem that we have a justice system designed to forget. In these cases I mentioned earlier, as in others, the public is forced to watch justice be delayed, diluted, or worse, disappeared. We are asked to believe that the same institutions under scrutiny are the ones holding the truth. These are not isolated incidents. They form a dangerous pattern of selective justice, political shielding, and institutional cover-up. And that pattern is extending now to Ronald Phillip, the Ronald Phillip case. Out of 4 allegations of sexual misconduct against Phillip, 3 were dismissed behind closed doors by the DPP. We wonder why. Only one has been forwarded, is going to be forwarded. We see what's happening. We have heard the rumors, the bullying, the peer pressure. Have these women decided not to continue with the cases because they are being pressured? This isn't exoneration. This is strategic sanitization. The recent dismissal of these 3 sexual misconduct complaints against Ronald Phillip on the basis of a lack of credible information after the acting commissioner of police had just weeks ago publicly acknowledged the seriousness of these allegations, stating they were concerning enough to immediately be forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions, has stirred deep public unease. While one matter has reportedly been taken up by the DPP, the overall optics of this decision raise more questions than they answer, especially against the backdrop of 2 unresolved national tragedies, the Kimberly de Leon and Shakadan Daniel cases, as I mentioned earlier, where key evidence mysteriously disappeared, effectively shutting the door to justice. This abrupt reversal sends a chilling message that justice and accountability are selective, and it severely undermines trust in our institutions. Our women deserve far better. They deserve protection, respect, and unwavering justice. In Ronald Phillip's situation, the fear is that institutional self-preservation and political alignment may render investigations hollow before they begin. So we ask why. Does Ronald Phillip have political aspirations, as many believe? Whispers abound that Ronald Phillip may have political ambitions, possibly aligning himself with the ruling Labour Party. If that is true, then clearing his name, at least in public perception, becomes not just a legal concern, but a strategic necessity. One cannot, or should I say, should not, enter the political arena burdened with unresolved allegations, especially those of a sexual nature. There seems to be an emerging trend. We know at least of one other minister, ex-minister that is, who entered the political foray with rape and a damning affidavit hanging over his head. Are we seeing another one emerging? The quick closure of the 3 complaints seem less like a pursuit of truth and more like a tidy-up operation. Whether Phillip intends to run or be installed, the image of squeaky clean is being carefully cultivated, it would seem. So if Phillip is being scrubbed clean for public life, it is done by not by defending the truth, but by protecting power. What we have here is a democracy on the brink, and we must call it what it is, a democratic emergency. Because we have victims who fear speaking out. When whistleblowers are silenced, key evidence is in critical cases have disappeared, and when senior police officers are rewarded for protecting the politically connected, then we no longer have a country governed by laws. We are a country ruled by privilege, deception, and manipulation. We cannot build a democracy on a foundation of vanished nooses, missing guns, and whitewashed investigations. Ronald Phillip may not have been charged, but neither has he been thoroughly cleared through a transparent process open to public scrutiny. What we see again is not exoneration in the true legal or moral sense, but a curated narrative of clearance handed down in a way that fuels distrust rather than resolve it. Is this a precursor of what's to come in that remaining case, where accusations quietly dissolve, inconvenient evidence vanishes, and public accountability is subverted by internal maneuvering? So what are the Facebook so-called seers and surrogates see? The Labour Party's social media warrior, dubbed as Sweaty Palms, have been very vocal, lobbing veiled threats and coded warnings. While some might interpret her writings as simple distractions or warnings or smears, I wonder if her obuculum has shown her a scenario that the rest of us have yet to fully grasp. What are you seeing in your crystal ball that the people of this country don't? Is it justice? Or are you attempting to shape public perception before facts catch up? Or are you panicking because even the best laid plans are starting to unravel under public scrutiny? Let me also ask of those of you who hide behind fake Facebook pages, the state-funded trolls, and the spiritual doublespeak. What do you know that the people of this country don't? Is this just the beginning of a crumbling facade of a regime built on fear or misinformation? You see, you can delete posts, you can silence pages, but you cannot delete the truth, and you cannot silence people. The real danger here is that if missing evidence, internal whitewashing, and media manipulation are becoming the new norm, St. Lucia is drifting far from democratic accountability and hurtling toward institutional authoritarianism. The nation deserves real answers, not PR management, not orchestrated silences, and certainly not recycled power players in sanitized suits. In Shakadan's case, the noose was vital to determine whether the alleged suicide was staged. Its disappearance leaves key questions unanswered. In Kimberly DeLeon's case, the missing firearm, allegedly linking her estranged husband, could have either confirmed or cleared suspicions. A functioning democracy depends on trust that no one is above the law. When evidence disappears, particularly in cases implicating law enforcement, it suggests selective justice or a cover-up. So again, we are calling for the following: independent inquiries into both cases led by regional or international experts, evidence management reforms, digitization, tracking systems, secure storage protocols, police accountability commission with prosecutorial powers, and parliamentary oversight and public reporting on investigations involving state agencies. In conclusion, for the families, for the future, the disappeared noose and gun are more than lost items. They are symbols of a justice system in peril. They represent silencing of two lives and the betrayal of public trust. In a true democracy, the law must serve the people, not shield the powerful. Until truth is found, St. Lucia's democracy remains wounded. To the family of Shakadan Daniel, your son's death will not be reduced to a missing rope. To the children of Kimberly De Leon, your mother's life will not be erased with a missing gun. To the female officers, no amount of whitewashing will erase or sanitize what was done to you. And to every St. Lucian who has been told to hush, to wait, to stop asking questions, do not stop. We will not stop, because justice must not only be seen to be done, it must be done. Until that day comes, the people will speak, we will act, and we will rise. Thank you, and may God bless St. Lucia.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Laura Jean-Pierre Noel, who spoke eloquently on the justice system that is under siege in our country. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring to our attention that if our collective voices are not raised, we cannot simply just raise our eyebrows, because as we watch justice facing an assault as violent as the attack perpetuated against Shakadan and Kimberly, apparently by those who are supposed to protect us, apparently by those who are supposed to uphold the law. Ladies and gentlemen, until and unless we do something about it, that missing noose will hang around our necks perpetually. We as a nation have become too permissive, and we unwittingly serve as conspirators. When it hits home is the only time some of us act. It is the only time when some of us respond. But now is the time for us to act collectively before it hits home, because none of us are immune, none of us are protected in a system where those who are supposed to protect us cannot be relied upon and cannot be trusted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just unjust. This is an erosion of trust in the institutions that are supposed to provide us with security and the institutions that are supposed to uphold law and order. At this point, I would like to call on the Deputy Political Leader, Senator Dominic Fede, who will continue to speak on the subject of crime, the justice system, and law and order in our country, given what is taking place currently in St. Lucia.
Well, thank you very much, Spider, and good morning to members of the media that are here with us, and good morning to you on Facebook. I would like to start my presentation this morning with an excerpt from a news clipping last night, and I call on our producer just to play this clip before I begin.
But I expect the police, as I said, I expect the police to use all the investigative powers to see how these exhibits disappeared. I want to express again my condolences to the relatives of people who lost their lives. And that happened when I was not Minister of National Security. There was a Minister of National Security at the time. So it's very concerning, and I hope the police leave no stone unturned. It can't be a cold case.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, it is clear that you continue to pass the buck to the police. This is the gravest dereliction of duty that we continue to see as our nation is gripped by a crime crisis. We call on you, Mr. Prime Minister, to apologize to the mothers of Kimberly De Leon and to the mother of Shakadan Daniel. A clear dereliction of duty on your part. Mr. Prime Minister, being as passive as you were then, even finding the emotion to smile about a serious matter, is concerning to us in the opposition. These women have been national symbols of perseverance. They continue in a relentless pursuit for justice. They go from government department to police units, to the DPP office, to the Attorney General's office, trying to muster every single help they can in making sure that justice is swift, making sure that justice is fair, making sure that justice is blind, and making sure that justice is served on their loved ones. They speak for so many in St. Lucia today that are without justice. Mothers who have cried on coffins, fathers who continue to weep silently in agony as they try to muster the pain that they have felt from the ordeal of the crime crisis afflicting us in this country. Kimberly DeLeon was murdered in the place where she should have felt the safest. Shakadan Daniel was in police custody when his life was reportedly taken from him. I want to read an excerpt from the Star newspapers, which I found online in preparing for this presentation today. And I want to share with you something I found interesting. And this is the Star newspapers, their online edition. It says that Shakadan Daniel was scheduled to make appearance at the 2nd District Court in Dennery on Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013, the day he most likely took his final breath. So we see this young man in this rather famous case lost his life the day he was about to make a court appearance. And it raises a very important question. And the question that it raises is this: who was trying to silence his voice in the courtroom? And what is it that Shakadan Daniel would have had to say in the court that would have caused his suspects or the accused of trying to muzzle his voice in the courtroom? These are very vexing questions which remain unanswered. So, Mr. Prime Minister, you should apologize to the mothers of these two deceased individuals. Mr. Prime Minister, you should apologize as well to Troya St. Martin and her baby girl who were brutally murdered in Wilton's yard not so long ago. No report of an arrest, no sign of justice coming to this family anytime soon. Mr. Prime Minister, it's only 2 words, not 3. It's 2. Say it the next time you are at the press briefing. I apologize. 2 words. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the father in Wilton's yard who never made it to his daughter's graduation. And on this day, he was reportedly going to get himself prepared to be there to celebrate one of the proudest moments with his daughter, who had done well in her examination. That daughter still grieves today. She still lives with the agony of never being able to see her father attend her graduation. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the French authorities for the death of Tyson. Apologize for the fact that there has been no sign or public expression of evidence which suggests that you and the apparatus that you have put in place would have been able to find the would-be perpetrators of this crime. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the mothers who cry over coffins at funerals. almost on a weekly basis in this country because of this gripping crime situation. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the over 300 young lives lost over the last 4 years that your administration sat at the helm of this country. Mr. Prime Minister, I call on you to apologize to the customs controller who was shot near his home in the Marisil area. He was shot reportedly for doing his job and for being a very honest customs controller. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to him. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the entire Customs Department, whom, from your own words, have been without the requisite equipment such as scanners to detect illegal guns and drugs and other illicit substances coming into the country. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the police officers who are overworked, working an average of 96 hours per week. Mr. Prime Minister, this is brutal and cruel to the hard-working men and women in the law enforcement department. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to the business community for the extra security costs that they have to endure because of a dereliction of your duty. Mr. Prime Minister, apologize to homeowners who go to bed every night feeling anxious as to whether it is their turn to be burglarized by criminals at gunpoint. Apologize for those people who are feeling a heightened sense of unprecedented anxiety in this country. Apologize to them, Mr. Prime Minister. You owe us a national apology. Having the highest homicide rate in the Eastern Caribbean at 47.1 per 100,000 in the population. So for every 100,000 individuals, there's 47 individuals that perish via the root of gun violence based on the stats presented by international organizations. In the year 2022, 76 homicides. In the year 2023, 75 homicides. In the year 2024, 77 homicides, a record-breaking amount. And this year, we know the stats all too well, and it is now up to us to try to arrest this spiraling out of control crime situation in the country. But you know, I believe that while many have said that the root of this crime problem are the lack of social programs, our lack of opportunity for young people, and a host of other interventions which I agree are necessary. But key to the root of the crime problem, which continue to persist in St. Lucia, is a lack of leadership, is a lack of taking responsibility. Leadership is the principal thing. A company, an organization, or a country rises or falls with the capacity of the leader. If the leader is 2, then the organization's success will be rated at 2. If the leader is 10, likewise, the organization will be a 10. And so, the United Workers' Party is ready to offer leadership to this crime crisis. And when the United Workers' Party is elected, we will do the following things. 1, we will adopt the COVID Command Center structure, which will now become the Crime Command Center to offer policy and strategic guidance and expertise on crime fighting initiatives in this country. We will work with the police officers, harnessing the very best talents and the very best intention of our hard-working law enforcement officials so that together we can win this thing for St. Lucia. We will properly appoint dedicated technical administrative staff to the command center to make sure that it is well equipped so that it is functioning well. 3, we will advance the administration of the border control program, a program that we advanced while we were in government. And this administration has retarded the progress of the Border Control Agency, which is an amalgamation of the Customs Department, of the Marine Department, of the Quarantine Department, and the Immigration Department, putting them under one management structure, creating a great level of synergy needed so that our borders can be better manned in this country. We will amend licensing requirement for all sea vessels registered in St. Lucia, making vessels monitoring systems mandatory. The United Workers' Party will do this when we are elected to form the next administration. We will make sure that there's a fast tracking of the LED and CCTV installation of cameras in an unprecedented way in this country. And I am very proud to say to the people of St. Lucia this morning that under the United Workers' Party, we have seen the most and the highest amount of CCTV installation of cameras to help our police officers fight the crime situation in this country. We will have a special rewards program for information on illegal weapons, encouraging holders of illegal firearms to bring them in a more frequent manner so that we can reduce the number of illegal guns that are found in the streets of this country. Implementation of a court backlog project and bench trials will be done by the United Workers' Party when we are elected. So, most importantly, we will not shirk from our responsibility to lead this country. We will bring back leadership into the affairs of this country. We will make sure that we take responsibility for whatever situation, whatever crisis, just like we did during COVID, just like we did having assumed negative economic growth and an economic crisis from the Labour Party in 2016. I thank you so much, and God bless you all. Be safe.
Thank you very much, Senator Dominic. And ladies and gentlemen, it would appear to be the case that we are in this nation doomed at this juncture. And I say so given the proliferation of guns and firearms in our community and the fact that we have a comatose administration led by a clueless Prime Minister and a failed Minister of National Security. And while Senator Dominic is calling on the Prime Minister to issue 2 words, I apologize, we know that the Prime Minister's conviction is that I apologize is 3 words. So perhaps he will accept as 2 words, I resign. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I would like to call on another deputy political leader of the United Workers' Party, and that is the endorsed candidate for Castries Southeast, Mr. Guy Joseph. And Mr. Guy Joseph will, in effect, summarize what has already been presented, but I will be asking of him, for the benefit of our Creole listeners, to make an attempt to explain some of what has been presented in the Creole language. Mr. Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montoute, and a pleasant good morning to all our viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues, Mrs. Laura Jean-Pierre and Mr. Dominic Fede, or Senator Fede, who is also a deputy leader of this party. As we reflect upon where we are, having just ended celebrations of emancipation, it is very clear that we are far from being emancipated in this country, given what is happening. Mwen vle di bon matin dat nou ka gade e kon nou tan de moun nan ki ja pale avan. Ay touche premier asou sa Miss Laura Jean-Pierre pale about. Ite ka espitye ban nou sa ki fet asou rapport dat chef police bay de 3 jou ki pase. Ka pale about de la mort qui prend place, yon about 7 l'année qui passe et yon about 10 l'année qui passe. Yon se moun nan, chaka dan mort pa di tan ite police qui te responsable. Ite adan en sel adan police station nan. Nous aussi tan about Miss Delay qui était carré en Paris, Castries, Southeast, au monde, et qui joigne koy fiziwe en Kaili, pas di tan yish li te la. Nous ka joigne le rapport from chef police, peut-être 2-3 jours avant y aller à sous holiday, pour venir dire nous that a chay evidence, evidence qui était nécessaire pour ce que ça aller devant disparaître. Now evidence ça c'est en pose moun nan qui te ni c'est evidence ça c'est police même. Now moi vle di en bay ici ya. C'est pas toute police qui pas bon. Nous n'a chay bon police en police force là. Mais les yon police fait un bail. Il ka reflecter à sous rôle cette police qui ka opéré en Saint-Lucie. So ma vle c'est bon police là point ça qui ka di a accordi c'est yo nous ka attaquer because nous besoin yo. Nous besoin c'est bon homme ça qui en police force like bon madame pour continuer faire ce bon travail là. Mais là ni yon de en parmi qui pas ka opérer bien. Parce que qui manière un code qui pendant moun ça disparaît, code la pan pied. Il pas ka marcher. Un moun ni pour tirer ek me en l'autre côté. Ek la nan kola asu newspin mwen hakoute c'est en police et qui ka dou toute manière ba ite kopowe. Avant tiyan evidence là pour aller et puis ou ni pour siye pour li. Là ou mene vie ou ni pour siye dat ou mene vie. Tout moun qui kopowe anti business, un mechanic shop, un body workshop. Côté lan zouti, là ou ay point zouti a un pour sign pour zouti a. Là ou mene zouti a vie un pour sign moun nan ki receive li ani pour ben mak ek un pour sign pour montrer dat ou retourner ou ka di madan police force evidence ki ni pour faire ek la vie moun ek justice en pays a bagay ka just disparaître ek le bagay disparaître chef police ka ale a sous holiday. So Maman Miss Delay, moi attend ni plusieurs fois ka kouye newspin avec différentes stations radio ka parler. Ou quoi c'est moun sa la sous holiday? Ou quoi yo sa me l'idée yo a sans holiday? Le yo jwenn kalte commission ça parce que ça moun ka garder pour un pays c'est justice. Nous pas ça mener moun nan vie. Mais pas di mwen dat moun nan ki fait se crime ça la ka marcher en parmi nous ka levi ni ka fait tout bay ka vivre la vie accordé rien pas fait ek se famille ça ni pour aller fruit tristesse ek la peine ça pour l'instant la vie yo. Now peut-être nous nom pe pas comprendre entièrement qui manière ça ka affecter en madame. Et c'est pour ça Miss Laura parlait about ça. L'animement Éthiopie a dans l'autre pays. Et en bay ka wive yish yo kadou yo senti en bo yo. That is the connection between a mother and a child. And when you see these painful situations, that is why I'm so concerned about where we are as a country. We seem to have lost our soul, our humanity as a people, and we are consumed by politics. Rouge et jaune. Justice is not about red or yellow. Justice is what is deserving of every citizen of this country. And even if you are not a citizen, you are just visiting, you're entitled to receive justice in this country. Yet still, the Prime Minister seemed to laugh about these matters. Now we've heard a saying, too many cooks spoil the soup. Let us look at how many people we are paying just in the hierarchy to be responsible. You have a Minister of National Security in the person of the Prime Minister. You have another minister who is involved in some aspect of security, Virginia Poyet. She was responsible. We don't know what Jeremiah is doing. Nobody has clearly stated to us. Has Jeremiah taken over all the portfolios of Virginia? We have an Attorney General in Mr. Mondesi. All of these, that is just within the cabinet. You have another minister in Richard Frederick who gives instructions to the police on his talk show on a Thursday, and the instructions are carried out. What has happened to St. Lucia? Qui sa ki wive St. Lucie jodi a? Nou ni Philip J. Pierre, nou ni Virginia, nou ni Jeremiah, nou ni Mondesi, ek nou ni Richard ki ka bay se police la instruction a sou program li. So they could have sent police officers on leave to investigate them. Who has gone on leave to investigate the death of Tyson? So up to a day like today, nou pa have ki moun ki te responsable pou Tyson. Nou pourtant yon moun ale a sou holiday pou yo investigate la mort Tyson. So is it possible that the persons who are responsible for Tyson's death are the same ones investigating Tyson's death today? Is that justice? And the Prime Minister has not seen it fit to address the nation, but you want to talk about our attitude towards the President of Nigeria? That is the liberation you want? That is the emancipation you want for us? The man have more problems in Nigeria. The Nigerians themselves don't want him. You want me to want him? You see, St. Lucia, We must wake up and realize that the hatred being spewed by Philip J.P.'s administration, the racism that is perpetuated by this Labour Party government is unacceptable. St. Lucia has not been a racist nation, not until the Philip J.P. administration. I can tell you that I'm of Indian descent, both my mother and my father. I'm married to somebody who's 100% African descent. We have never had an issue of me being Indian and she being of African descent. In this country, there are lots of intermarriages. You have blacks marrying whites, you have whites marrying black. You have all kinds of mixtures of people in this country. And we have a government that is perpetuating hate and racism in this country. And the churches are silent on the matter. Civil society is silent on the matter. The Bar Association is silent on the matter. The Chamber of Commerce is silent on the matter. And most people in the country behind closed doors quietly say that's not right, but they are scared to speak out. Philip J. Pierre is running a government that has people living in fear of even being able to express themselves. Most of them on social media operate under fake names. Yo pa mem vle moun sav ki moun yo ye. Is that what our St. Lucia has become today? And we heard, as Laura explained to us today, the injustice that people are suffering in this country. And let me tell you, they want to tell you, oh, don't politicize this. There is one person that is ultimately responsible, and that is the Prime Minister. And he is accountable and responsible on two counts. He's Minister of Justice or National Security, and he's Prime Minister. So when UWP was in government, Alan Chasney was responsible for everything that happened and did not happen in this country. Why today we have a new Prime Minister and he's not responsible and accountable for what happens in this country? So there's one measurement for one side and another measurement. Let me see Alan Chasney, c'était Premier ministre Saint-Lucie. Labour Party dit c'est lui qui était responsable pour tout le bail qui était fait. Sean vini à parlement là pour dire c'est lui qui était monsieur Chasney qui était responsable pour tout ça qui était fait en pays. Hodia nous na premier ministre ek nous vle dit c'est pas lui qui responsable. Ek li i ka jwen paye pour travail là. Gwamoun di si chalet a top show sorti en cuisine. Mr. Prime Minister, if the heat is too much, get out of the kitchen. And let the people who can stand the heat be the one to do the cooking in this country. Because we cannot continue. I mean, it is from one spate of events to another. We've not even overcome or received a basic report on the death of Tyson. Another set of evidence is disappearing. And then Vern Gad as Commissioner of Police. Now, Mr. Gad, the Prime Minister said that he does not interfere with the police force, so that makes you the person ultimately responsible for what has happened in the police force. But you choose to go on leave or they sent you on leave. I don't know which one. And as Mr. Montut said most recently, criminals don't act. They do. They commit crime. That's what they do. So we continue to have acting commissioners while we have fully functional criminals. Is that how we want to run this country? And St. Lucia, because it has not hit home, and I'm not wishing that for anybody, but it is time we wake up in this country and hold this government accountable for the state of affairs in St. Lucia. Mr. Fede spoke at length about what the Prime Minister said and what they are doing. St. Lucia, this is our country. This is not Philip J. Pierre's country. This is not the Labour Party's country. For that matter, the foundation of the development of this country was built by a united Workers' Party government. I want to highlight what Labour Party said they would do, because it is important. Mwen vle di sa yo di yo te kay fè pou kombate crime en Saint-Lucie. Ek Monsieur Dominique parle about ça. Mwen vle tout Saint-Lucien kopan. He dit a Labour government approach to crime will therefore be proactive while adopting measures to contain it by assisting the police in finding new ways to increase crime detection rates. To achieve this, we will propose the following. Increase the installation of surveillance cameras in communities. 4 l'année, mwen vle nou mande Labour Party a combien camera yo ha install a combien commune a Saint-Lucie. Introduce the use of drones by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force as a monitoring and detecting device in crime fighting. Ou se bay la kon ti plen nan ou ka wek a vole ou ka pren pou tiye portwe. Drone pou moun ki pa kopan. De la ou se ti bay zay kon an gibier. Lani sa ki sa wew from aleze a yo sa pren portwe, yo sa zoom asou, yo sa pren limo machine ki ka pase asou chimè tout ba. Labour Party di le yo tantou an gouvernement, se sa yo te kay bay se polis la. Now mwen pase, le mwen te ka vini si a bog government building na la, mwen truck rouge la, ma si sa se drone la. Because se sel bay mwen ki la, ki nef. E sa te procure depi le flambeau te an gouvernement. Now mwen sa pa an drone, se an truck because sa a terre. So, si Premier Ministre lan matche un manifesto, se sa ite kay fe. Pa même sa ou sa fe. Tan sa yo di, we shall equip traffic police with vehicles with digital vehicular registration database for the tracking of suspicious vehicles and the identifying and unlicensed and uninsured vehicles on public roads. That was started under a UWP government. There were a couple of cars. We were the ones introducing the digital system where you could do all your transactions online, where the police would be able to pull up the information when they pull over a car. They would be able to log into the system and know the status of that vehicle, whether the license plate applied to the vehicle. Most of these things have been on a go slow under this Labour Party government. So, we had given the police Now, here's one of the things they said they would do to reduce crime. Now, this is not my word. So when we say certain things, they say reinstate the NICE and STEP program to increase employment opportunities in communities. So you know what they understand? That the level of economic activity has a direct impact on crime. Now they said they would reinstate STEP, but we never stopped STEP. So how you can reinstate something that was not stopped? For that matter, we were employing many more people under the STEP program than they were. Every year, we were employing more people than them. And the record is there to show. For that matter, say, you say, you buy 3 jours STEP at $100 par jour. Some people only get 500, some get 300, some get 350. And some of them are even taxed. So the crime situation in St. Lucia is facilitated by the incompetence of this government. I want to be very careful with my words. Because Tommy said something and I agree with him. The escalated crime zone is on the 5th floor of the Graham Louise building. Because that is where the decisions are made. That is where problems can be resolved. That is where people meet and decide what will happen and what will not happen. And it was the Prime Minister himself who said, you think I don't know what is happening in this country? You think I don't know who the criminals are? You think he said he knows everything. Who is behind the crime? So you know who is behind the crime, but you have never reported them to the police to get arrested, and you're not a facilitator of the present crime situation that we have in this country. I mean, if I go and say something like that, the police would come to me to question me. Si mwen di mwen sav ki moun ki ka fe se krim la. Si mwen di mwen sav tout sa ki ka fet. Es police pa ni dwa pou vin mande mwen question. And I said it and I will say it again. Richard Frederick may not be in charge of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, but isn't he in charge of the city police? The city council people who function as constables and police officers in the city. That is what the Americans was most fearful of. Richard Frederick being anywhere close to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. And we know that because we served in government together. Okay? And my colleagues in cabinet at the time can substantiate what I am saying there. And Sir John created a ministry of housing for him to keep him as far from the police force. But the Prime Minister, in his lack of wisdom and foresight, because that wisdom can be associated. Some people will say because of his wisdom. I will tell you because of his lack of wisdom and foresight. Put him in his office while he is Minister of National Security. And when you have ministers attached to your ministry, anything you cannot do, you delegate responsibility to them. Is it possible that the Prime Minister has delegated certain law enforcement responsibilities or police oversight or whatever the National Security Minister does? Is it possible, and I'm asking the question, that the Prime Minister has delegated some of that responsibility to Mr. Richard Frederick? Is that possible? Because I saw he said Taliam was transferred and I saw Mr. Jan Gustav was sent on leave for investigation for things that was posted on social media. And today we have things disappearing that are related to murder cases, and we're not hearing a single police officer, a single senior officer being held accountable and sent on leave for investigations. While cases are being dropped, high-ranking officers remain on the job, and you want our policemen and women to be motivated. I have an idea of the trauma faced by some of the persons who lodged the complaints. Let me tell you something. All of us know, nous tout simplement si savent, là où ka travaille à dans place, si ou report supervisor, eh ben report boss ou savent manière yo ka fait la vie difficile ba ou à sous travail là until yo sa get rid of you. What do you think these female police officers faced for lodging a complaint against a senior member? And here's the question that everybody is afraid to ask. How many of our women police officers are facing sexual harassment on a daily basis? We are in a dangerous place at this point. And our women are being taken advantage of. And to further compound the situation, I'm hearing one of the candidates of the Labour Party is the living partner of a senior police officer who has major complaints against them. You see that mahekoshan that Labour Party is making with the arrangements of affairs in this country, not being able to separate personal issues from the day-to-day runnings of the affairs of this country. We are treading on dangerous grounds in this country. And Philip J. Pierre has no answers. I will close on this point because I have received the reports based on the statement that I made about the Labor Department. That one of the persons in question have claimed that he was just there to investigate. You see, that's why I always tell St. Lucians, when I give my information, I don't give all my information up front. Because un pou fè yo vin manti. Because là ou ka fè ba ki pa bon. Un pou manti. Pou clair ko. Bon là ou manti, un pou changer. Premier manti ya ou te di ya. Pour moun pas sav se manti ou te ka manti. So I just gave basic information. And I've received the reports about the persons in question. But here's what they didn't know. The complaint was lodged after. And the investigation was started after the timesheets were signed. No, before the timesheets were signed. I want to get it, make sure I get it right. So, when the workers at Namalco made the complaint, the gentleman in question was already signing timesheets, which means that he was already working as a health, safety, and environmental officer at Namalco, while an employee of the Labor Department. And I want to know why Minister Poyot has not responded, because I know the reports that I have, she has received it. And if she had not received it, so let me give some more information today. Two of the findings reveal 2 of the employees interviewed expressed an issue with regards to the flawed calculation of the overtime payments. The record of the attendance register illustrates that a majority of the technical employees at the establishment worked overtime on a daily basis. The staff attendance register for the corporation clearly reflected multiple line entries by an individual named Nikolai Lansico. A job description of the individual as an HSE, Health, Safety, and Environmental Officer. The work attendance time for this individual and a signature of the individual. And I have it in color. You see, I want St. Lucia to understand there is an unprecedented level of corruption being facilitated by this labor administration. But they want to keep quiet on it. But I have more information. I have much more. Upon examination of the attendance record specific to the complaint, some anomalies were noted and in calculation of the overtime, which reflected differences in the amount paid to employees. Who is protecting the workers of St. Lucia? Who protected the workers at Monpima? When the minister, Ernest Hille, came and sided with the developer against the workers. Who is protecting the workers at Namalco? And I will come in due course. I want to read one other line. It says, the records reveal that the employer on April 30th, 2025 revealed that the name and information of the official was clearly removed from the submitted information. So I have it, where the name is blanked out on the pay sheet. So St. Lucia, this is what passes for governance under Philip J. Pierre. When a St. Lucian cannot get justice as a worker, when a crime has been committed and there can be no justice for the family, then we cease being a country. We are no longer a civilized society. There is a total breakdown of law, order, fairness, and justice under Philip J. Pierre. It has never been so bad in St. Lucia. No other prime minister has made such a mess with the governance of this country. Everybody feels they can do what they want to do. You can have an employee of a ministry, a labor department at that, who is supposed to look after the interest of workers, signing timesheets, start work at 7 in the morning, end at 4 or 9 in the afternoon. Because what the explanation they were giving is that he was there to investigate. But investigation na kuma say apwe take a sign time sheet la. Because he signed time sheet of February, investigation na kuma sa match. So kima now they haka investigate a February. You see the lies? And you know what? This worker is still employed today, still at the labor department, still being paid by the same taxpayers who have been robbed of their just payment on these jobs. And nobody is sent on vacation, nobody is sent on leave, all ministers are quiet. Because you know what? They know the business of the ministers. So if they try to take disciplinary action against these people, they know what they can reveal about them. St. Lucia, there's one solution to this problem. We need to get rid of this government sooner rather than later so that justice can be done for the people of this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. You just heard a comprehensive coverage of what is taking place in your country, St. Lucia. And you know, while Senator Fede and Mrs. Jean-Pierre Noel spoke on the issues discussed by the commissioner, I realized that Deputy Political Leader Guy Joseph also brought us to a few additional matters, and one which struck me is the issue of Police K9 642 Tyson, which he spoke about. And we know what the situation is as far as K9 Tyson is concerned. We heard another top police officer, Luke De Freitas, give a report on the latest with Tyson's investigation. And according to him, there are samples after the necropsy was done by a veterinary pathologist. Samples were taken and sent to the forensic lab for toxicology to be carried out, and upon the receipt of the results, they will be able to determine the cause of death. Given what the commissioner revealed to us on Friday, the question is, who is in possession of those samples? Is it the same police who are losing exhibits and cannot find evidence? What is more distressing and disturbing is the fact that the suspects in the case of K9 642 Tyson are police officers themselves. So where do we stand in a country where it seems that lawlessness prevails within the law enforcement? And I want to just read something that was sent to me this morning. And it says, a police dog in Colombia was so good at fighting drugs that a cartel put a bounty on it. Very interesting, I found. This just goes to show how seriously criminals take these canine heroes. Their work is dangerous but crucial in the fight against illegal trafficking. Police dogs aren't just animals. They're vital partners in law enforcement, using their senses and training to protect communities. Their courage and effectiveness often turn the tide in critical operations. I have a question. Is that what's going on in St. Lucia? Was a bounty placed on Tyson's head? By whom? Do we have a situation of crime syndicates in St. Lucia operating criminal networks who are influencing those occurrences that are taking place when it comes to law and order, criminal activity, and justice in St. Lucia? The Minister of National Security who laughs when he's talking about those serious issues should have to answer some serious questions. I have already said, with his failures, it is about time that he do the country a service and resign. Because he has been an abject failure when it comes to criminal justice in St. Lucia, when it comes to law and order and security. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard our three presenters on those critical, serious issues. And now, if there are any questions for our presenters on the subjects discussed this morning, you may please proceed in asking your question. Otherwise, we'll bring the You have a question. Okay, so we have a question on what was discussed this morning by our three presenters. So please go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. On crime, and this is a question to either presenters of the panel. What is the United Workers' Party's strategy for crime suppression should you all be elected into office?
Okay,
after
the question
the next
is,
elections?
what is the United Workers' Party's plan for crime suppression should the United Workers' Party, or when the United Workers' Party forms the government? And while one of the presenters is coming up to answer, I may say as an affiliate of the United Workers' Party that I expect the first order of business is to remove the current government that has failed us as far as crime is concerned. But I will allow one of the presenters to elaborate.
Thank you very much for the question. Is it St. Lucia Times or St. Lucia News Online? So the first thing we will do, as I've said in my presentation, we will adopt the COVID-19 command center structure, which will now become a crime command center. That's the first thing. So we will have a holistic, a multi-pronged approach to crime, bringing various government departments together so that we can profit from the synergies, harnessing the best potential across the civil service so that we can deal with crime comprehensively and bringing together police, the immigration department, the quarantine department, the marine police department. Look at the role that the Ministry of Health will have to play. Crime often overwhelms the health sector. Tourism, a sector that I know very well, would want to ensure that we see a reduction in the levels of harassment against visitors, for example. And then as well, the second thing that we will do is we will have a properly dedicated secretariat for the command center. It's going to be its own unit. We're going to advance in the administration of the border control program, a program that we saw that is pivotal towards the fighting of crime in St. Lucia. A lot of the guns are coming through the borders. And so in order to intercept the borders, we have to have customs working proficiently. We have to make sure that the scanners are working at customs. We have to make sure that the radar in the north and the south of the country, that's always working. The technological makeup of crime fighting must be very strong and robust. We have to also bring together the border control agencies, so customs, immigration, the quarantine department in the Ministry of Agriculture, along with the immigration department. All of these agencies, it is necessary for us to make sure that they're all working together. We have to also, we will fast track the CCTV installation. I'm very proud of our record on the installation of CCTV cameras so that they can play a more crucial role in the advancement of crime fighting initiatives. We want to reward more prolifically individuals for bringing in weapons. So we have more people surrendering weapons and having accompanying programs, giving young people alternatives to drug trafficking and so on. We want to make sure that not only we provide $5,000, but we want young people to start dreaming again. We want young people to feel that they can make it in their own country. And that's the kind of government that we will have. A lot of the loan programs that are being dispensed now, I'm happy to tell you that those are agreements that we signed and programs that we put in place to make sure that the youth of this country had the best opportunity to succeed. Too many people are living in poverty. Too many people are seeing parts of St. Lucia that are advancing, and they are not being part of that growth. They're not being part of that prosperity. And this, we believe, is causing significant animosity among a lot of people, and we have to make sure that those individuals are catered to in a very strategic way. And the implementation of the court backlog project, the backlog of cases is having a debilitating impact on the ability of our country to solve a number of the cases. Look at the Kimberly DeLeo case, for example. That's 2018. We're now in 2025. Shaka Dan Daniel was in 2013. So we're talking 12 years and 7 years later. And still, in these two examples that have risen to the surface of the national conversation, we're not seeing a fast enough solution or bringing to justice those individuals. Once you have a situation where people are not being brought to justice, you will see that this will affect the level of compliance. We are developing a culture of non-compliance in this country, and we have to make sure that we solve cases in this country, minor cases, serious cases, offenses at the criminal level, so that we increase the level of compliance and change the whole culture for good. It's a big conversation, and the United Workers' Party will go back to its strategy to make sure that we have national symposiums, talking to church groups, bringing together civil society leaders, business leaders, and political leaders as well. When we form the government, we will do a better job of embracing the soon-to-be opposition St. Lucia Labour Party.
Just to follow up, so I could summarize the United Workers' Party's strategy as being, more social interventions, certainly increasing the technological capacity of law enforcement and so on, and working with all sectors. The present government would have outlined more or less the same strategy to fight crime. So what differentiates the UWP's strategy from that of the SLP, and what puts you guys in a better position to handle the situation?
The St. Lucia Labour Party has been appallingly weak on crime from the leadership of the administration. The Prime Minister, it took him 4 years to say that he has a zero tolerance for crime, and that is not enough. You've got to send a very clear signal from the beginning. You're the Prime Minister. You've taken an oath to protect the country and to protect the people in the society. And what you have to do is to make sure you let criminals of the country know that you are tough on this and that there is no room in an administration that you're presiding over for corruption at the government level, for corruption within the police force, or for corruption in the general society. I, for example, want to draw a stark contrast between Andrew Holness of Jamaica and our Prime Minister. And you put the public statements made side by side by those two individuals, and you will walk away with the very clear impression that Philip J. Pierre, who has often told us that he is not the police officer, he has removed himself from being responsible for the crime situation in the country, while what he should be doing is coming up on a daily basis with solutions. He should be obsessed with winning crime. He should be more concerned. Look at last night on the press briefing what he said. He hopes that the police heighten its investigative powers. That's not enough. What are you, the Prime Minister, who is also, by the way, because don't forget, in our case, the Prime Minister assigned himself the portfolio of National Security Minister. So he is responsible as Prime Minister. He's the Minister of Finance that has the capacity to provide more resources for the police. But in addition to that as well, he has a responsibility as the National Security Minister. I have found out that there's no current plan, strategic plan for the police force. If there is one, I want the police to come out and say that this is what it is. But have you heard a strategic plan coming out of the police force in terms of how we're going to fight crime? Has the Prime Minister ensured that the society and the country has the best crime fighting initiatives? The results are appalling. We are the highest homicide rate in the OECS at 42 per every 100,000.
Before we take the next question, our other deputy political leader, Mr. Guy Joseph, would like to weigh in on the question that was asked previously.
Yes, I think it's a good question, and my colleague Dominic has dealt in part with the major part of it. But I heard your second comment relating to the fact that what we have said is not much different from what the Labour Party has said. The marked difference is when we say, we do. When Labour Party says it's just on paper, and if you followed the earlier part, I gave the interventions in the St. Lucia Labour Party manifesto that was outlined. The drones, the CCTV cameras, the STEP program, the NICE program, and these things. And I'm asking, where is it? So let's understand where the stark difference is. A United Workers' Party government would have never disbanded the K9 unit. For that matter, we may have had 2 or 3 other units, K9 units, added to where we are so that we could reduce the proliferation of illegal firearms and ammunition on our streets. The Prime Minister's actions was the one who caused the crisis that we have there. He disbanded the K9 unit because he said somebody told him that you don't need the scanners and the K9 unit. So you can take the scanners on the streets. So if you're doing a traffic check and you just want to do a quick scan, so you mean you're going to carry the scanner, put it by the roadside and scan the vehicles that are passing? You're going to bring the scanners and check everybody's luggage at the airport? So it is clear that the approach of Labour is flawed. He should never have disbanded the K9 unit. So we didn't have the K9 unit for an extended period of time. And the scanners were not working. And this is a major contributor to the amount of illegal ammunition and guns in St. Lucia. To further compound the situation, Tyson has been killed, murdered, which is what they don't want to hear, in police custody. And now we've seen the disappearance of critical evidence. So let's understand. Our interventions are not just social. There are social interventions that are necessary. But it goes beyond that. Where is the radar system that was set up at Mulashik to pick up all the vessels on the water? Can we get an update on this? When we came into government, none of the police marine boats was operational. We had to secure 18 engines for the marine vessels. We had started the installation of the CCTV cameras, and with the new lighting system, that the LED lights, there was supposed to be installation of 1,500 CCTV cameras throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia, with a major command center where everything was being monitored. So these are not, how can we put UWP and Labour on the same line? Labour is doing nothing other than water skis, vehicles. And I said it. 2 vehicles which gets damaged within a year would have covered the cost of the K9 unit for an entire year. And a K9 unit would have brought you much more success than 2 vehicles. And while we're speaking about this, you know what my understanding is? A permanent secretary is driving home with a police marked vehicle while they have their own personal vehicles. But yet still, we will say we give the police resources. You give the police resources, or you give the senior persons in charge resources. So a UWP government will not just do social interventions. We will be hard on law enforcement. We will give the police the support, and we will not say we give them resources like jet skis. We will make sure you have the speedboats working, you have the radar system working. And remember how long the forensic lab was closed on the St. Lucia Labour Party? Even if they were the ones who built it, they built it and closed it like they did with OKEU and closed it and gave it a name. A UWP government came in and got the forensic lab operating. And so the measures we were implementing and the measures we will implement, and I have all three I have the 2011 manifesto of Labour Party. I have the 2021. I have the 2021 manifesto of UWP. And I can tell you, it's not what people come and pronounce, It is what they do. So I can just give you a simple example. As what UWP did. Secured insurance policy for police officers for the first time in the history of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, to the tune of $400,000 for death or loss of limbs. We installed CCTV cameras from Grosile to Castries. What's the status of them? Are they operational? Procured new equipment for the force, which included motor vehicles, motorcycles, 18 new engines for the police marine unit, and over 800 radios for the police use. Because you know what? When a police was on a crime scene, he had to use his cell phone to make a call. Can anybody tell us whether these 800 radios are operational? So let's deal with things the way they are. The present government is soft on crime. Very soft. A United Workers' Party will take a very proactive approach. We have a lot of things to fix. We have to start speaking to people about when we need to beef up our K9 unit. We need to get the scanners working. So as soon as UWP gets into office, we will see a major step up in crime fighting in this country, which we cannot see under this present administration.
Mr. Joseph, just to continue on the subject of crime, the idea of a command center, I seem to remember that being part of the recommendations that were passed on to the Prime Minister when he called for assistance in dealing with the issue of crime. Am I correct in that assumption?
I know we gave him about 6 pointers that he said he put in the garbage and sent it to Deglo. But it was one of them. Yes. So I want to say, you learn from past experiences. When COVID hit, it was new to us. It was new to the world. So we put in a command center with the best resources from all sectors. And we did a great job. St. Lucia was ranked top, maybe the top 2 countries in the world for the management of COVID. So we can replicate what we saw, because the crime situation we have is a crisis. Crime is at a crisis proportion. It is an epidemic in St. Lucia. So putting in a team of persons, you're not going to have the same persons that you had for the COVID command center. You're going to look for the expertise in this area, and they will meet on a weekly basis to be able to monitor, see what's working, see what needs to change, because the police needs all the help they can get to manage and to reduce the crime situation in St. Lucia. We cannot expect that from the present government, because the government is soft on crime. The government is afraid to speak about what they are going to do about crime. The government does not even speak in a month when 18 people lost their lives through murder, and several are nursing gunshot wounds. Not a single statement from Minister of Crime Prevention, from Minister of National Security, from the Attorney General, or anybody. And I'm supposed to think that UWP is going to be in government. If UWP is in government and that happens and we are not addressing the nation and saying what we are going to do, and we've done it before, then we should not be the ones governing the country. And so I am saying to you, based on your question, we have clear recommendations. We are not the one in office today. And that is why the situation is as bad as it is.
My other question to you, Mr. Joseph. With these troubling revelations of evidence missing in key cases of national interest, how is the UWP going to address situations like that in the future to ensure that this situation does not reoccur?
I like to be very precise in my answers. I don't know that you can say you will make sure that never happens again, because we're dealing with human beings. But when it happens, if it happens, people will be held accountable. There's no way Tyson would have died under UWP administration in these circumstances, and no one would have been sent on leave for investigation to be done. There's no way these sexual allegation complaints would have been made about a senior police officer and would still be on the job while investigation is going on, and then you just hear in cases or matters being dropped. Neither would the Prime Minister go to court to see that justice was done. There's a clear separation from the court and the executive of government. The Prime Minister went to court with his colleague Ernest Hille. You see, while some of us pay all our duties for our vehicles, some people, because of the position they occupy, they can get away with it. But not under UWP government. If you have been found wanting, you will account for it. Any other questions? All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And well, we got quite a comprehensive list of some of the plans of the United Workers' Party. And although the media personnel did indicate that we have social programs, most of what Mr. Joseph and Mr. Fede mentioned were in fact other programs that were not necessarily solely social interventions, but because of my personal experience, I know too that in addition to what was mentioned, we had the after-school program that was implemented, the juvenile program that was implemented, and we also had the YEP for youth program that was implemented. Quite a number of social programs, as the journalist did indicate, in addition to all of what was mentioned by both Mr. Joseph and Dominic Fede. So again, before I end, the UWP was asked, what is it they are going to do? What is their plan? And we got the answer. I would like to say too that I want to ask the general public to play their part, because we say crime is everybody's business, and the part the public has to play is to first remove the impediment for fighting crime, which is the current government. So the Prime Minister can do us a favor by expediting the calling of the general election, and the general public can play their part in ensuring that they remove the big impediment to crime fighting, the St. Lucia Labour Party. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you who attended this press conference. I want to thank the presenters, Mrs. Laura Jean-Pierre Noel, Mr. Senator Dominic Fede, and Mr. Guy Joseph. I want to thank all of you who are listening on live stream around St. Lucia, and I want to say a special thanks to those of you in the diaspora who continue to tune in and show interest and pay attention to what is going on in your homeland, St. Lucia. Thank you, and I ask that you join us on Thursday for Meet the Opposition, where we'll be featuring one of the newly endorsed candidates of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Titus Sprayville, who is the endorsed candidate for Babono. And of course, on Sunday, we will be in Micoud North for another Flambeau Live. So please stay tuned to the United Workers' Party, where you get the enlightenment, you're provided with truthful information, and you're able to find out what concerns and interests you in this country. Thank you very much. Have a great day.